So the NBA season is right around the corner, and because of that, I wanted to talk about one team from each conference that I feel like is pretty interesting heading into the year. And as you guys can tell from the title, I'm going to be talking about my Eastern Conference team, and that is the New York Knicks. And I feel like the New York Knicks really improved a lot over the offseason, but I feel like some people have kind of forgotten about how good they were last year. And in today's video, I just wanted to talk about the New York Knicks and how much they've improved and why they can be really good this year. So before this video does get started, please go ahead and check out my podcast if you guys haven't already. The link to it is in the description below. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get this video started. So doing a super quick recap of how we got here. Obviously, New York last season, they were maybe the NBA's biggest surprises, despite having the bar set very low for them yet again. They broke through and were fantastic. Tom Thibodeau, who was hired as the team's head coach in the 2020 offseason, he really changed the culture in New York, and he gave the Knicks an identity, and that really helped them as a team. He gave them an identity as an amazing defensive team, as they were one of the best defenses, in the NBA in the 2021 NBA season. And along with that, RJ Barrett and Julius Randle would both see massive leaps in their play, and they would lead the New York Knicks to the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. And Julius Randle, he would be named an all-star, and they would lose to the Atlanta Hawks in 5 games in the first round, but it was still a really successful season for them. So I think we all know the story. And while it was an amazing season for the New York Knicks, there were clearly some issues on the team that they really had to address. They were great on defense, however, their offense, it really needed some work, as they were pretty way too dependent on Julius Randle when it came to shot creation on that side of the court. And when Julius Randle struggled in the playoffs, New York's offense basically just collapsed, and Derrick Rose kind of just had to basically extinguish a massive fire, and Derrick Rose basically had to just carry them on that side of the court, man. And look, man, Derrick Rose, he's a good player, let's not get that twisted, but an aging Derrick Rose should not be having to carry your offense. And I mean, if you have aspirations of making a deep playoff run, he simply cannot do that. And I mean, it was clear the New York Knicks had to get a little bit more offensive help around Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. Now, the Knicks, they had quite a bit of money to work with in the 2021 offseason, and they really made use of it. They added Kemba Walker to their team, and while he did have a down season in 2021, he's far better than what the Knicks had at point guard last year. I mean, they had Elfrid Payton, and it's safe to say Elfrid Payton, he sucked last year. I mean, he's good on defense. I mean, he can pass well, but the dude can't shoot for shit, man. I mean, he's just not a good shooter, and he just was not a very good, starting point guard for the New York Knicks. And I think we can all agree that Kemba Walker, again, he's an upgrade over Elfrid Payton, and we should take into account that he was dealing with plenty of injuries in 2021, and if he can stay healthy, I do believe he can get back to being an all-star caliber player. And let's not forget, I mean, this guy, he was an all-star not too long ago. I mean, before, all those knee injuries started to really just, kill him in Boston, he was an all-star caliber player, man. Kemba Walker, he's still a damn good player, and honestly, if he can remain healthy, again, I think he can definitely get back to that all-star level form. He adds great shot creation, shooting, and an additional scoring option, plus he is also another source of playmaking. Now, his playmaking, I will admit, is not the best for a point guard, but at the same time, he is still a pretty solid, playmaker, and overall, Kemba Walker, a very good player. And honestly, I mean, mind you, they got him on a really good contract. 2 years, $16 million. Honestly, I think that's pretty good. I mean, if he doesn't exactly work out, well, then you can trade him in the offseason or maybe at the deadline. And then if he does work out, you can go ahead and extend him, for however longer. You can just keep him around. And, I really love this Kemba Walker signing a lot. Then they added Evan Fournier in free agency as well. And Evan, he's not anything crazy, but he is a pretty good sub, 20 point per game scorer who can also shoot well, and he's an alright defensive player. And honestly, I mean, players like that, it's always nice to have, players like Evan Fournier on your team. So, I mean, Evan Fournier, he was another very solid addition. I love those 2 free agency additions. And those 2 additions really helped their offense, which was a weak point last year. And they also helped take pressure off RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, since they won't have as much responsibility creating for others. And this will help, make the Knicks' offense less predictable and better in the playoffs, since they aren't, so reliant reliant on one guy, and when you're so reliant on one guy, it can make your offense predictable. And as we saw, when that one guy just isn't playing well, I mean, your entire offense collapses, and essentially, as we saw in the playoffs again, like, Derrick Rose pretty much just had to get one fire extinguisher to try and, extinguish a massive wildfire. And I mean, the point is, like, your offense is gonna collapse, man, and I absolutely love them, the moves they made. And also, New York did retain Derrick Rose, who's a good six man, and, speaking of him, and Nerlens Noel, who was fantastic last year, and I don't know if he will start or, come off the bench, but again, he was very good as a backup center, as a center for them. And along with that, they did retain Alec Burks, and he's a pretty good source of offense off the bench. And Mitchell Robinson, he is going to be coming back next year, and that's going to be huge because he still has decent potential. And Mitchell Robinson, he's a pretty good player. I mean, he's way more like old school compared to like other big men in the NBA, but he's still very good. He just has to, foul less, because if he can stop fouling, like, this guy, he can be a really good defensive player. And Mitchell Robinson, I mean, he's definitely going to help the center depth on this team, and I really like Mitchell Robinson. Very good player. And I also do believe that young guys like RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley, they're going to be taking steps in their play as well. RJ Barrett, he is an all-star in the making, and in 2022, I think he's going to get closer to fulfilling his potential as a player. And I mean, he has the tools to be an all-star caliber player, and honestly, I think he's just going to naturally get better as a player. And I mean, it's kind of just, up from here. Toppin, he didn't get a lot of playing time last year, but he did show flashes at the end of last season, and with the full year under his belt, I think he's gonna get more minutes in the rotation, and I see him being used as like a stretch 4 pick and roll threat off the bench, and he's mainly, just another source of scoring off the bench. And Emmanuel Quickley, he was pretty good as well, and he is a massive fan favorite in New York, and I think he would, with more experience, he's gonna get better. Emmanuel, he should be a pretty good backup guard, and he should be another source of shot creation and playmaking off the bench. And I mean, that's one good thing about the New York Knicks. They, I mean, with the, these improved, and offensive play, with these additions they made to their team, I mean, they have some pretty good, offense off the bench, so that's very nice. I mean, Emmanuel Quickley, pretty solid young player, and I think he will be getting, better as time does go on. Emmanuel Quickley, overall, very solid, player, and I mean, this team has improved a lot, and I mean, Tom Thibodeau, he's gonna make sure that this team is good defensively, and again, their offseason additions, they were super good, and I think, probable improvement from the young guys should lead to them being much better this upcoming season. And I think they, assuming they do make the playoffs, I think they will be much better in the playoffs, because Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, while they did not play well last year in the postseason, you do need to understand that, I mean, hey, they were still pretty young guys. Like Julius Randle, he was like 25, 26, and RJ Barrett, obviously, it was his second season, and both of them, it was their first postseason experience ever. And so it is kind of understandable that they did struggle. Now, they do need to play better next time the Knicks do make it to the playoffs, and I mean, if they can do that, then I mean, that's obviously gonna be great, because they're two of the best players on the team. And also, like, they definitely have less of an excuse for playing bad, because again, this help, it really helps the additions, it really helps the New York Knicks in the playoffs, because again, I mean, their offense is less predictable, and they just have, they don't have as much load offensively, and they don't have to create for, everyone else on the team. And honestly, I mean, I really love their offseason additions. Now, it must be said that the Eastern Conference, it's really good, and it's the best it's ever been in, in years, and that can really affect their standing. However, I could see New York being as high as the 4 seed, maybe the 3 seed if we're being super generous, and, maybe some team disappoints, but I see, 4 seed as maybe their ceiling. But because of the depth in the Eastern Conference, they could be as low as the 8th seed. But hey, man, the New York Knicks, they're a very good team, and I'm really excited to see, how they do in the 2022 NBA season. But hey, man, that's all I have to say for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel, and also make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and you guys enjoy this type of content, so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I'm finally gonna do a face reveal. And also, thank you guys so much for watching. But hey, man, with that being said, I'm out, you guys.